Fishing is an extreme sport and business. If you don't think so, you've probably never experienced what it's like to be in the middle of a vast sea, no land in sight, and a thunderstorm ready to tear your boat to pieces. Here, we follow 3 of Discovery Channel's most popular boats and their crew as they ride the waves searching for a prize: crabs. As you'll see, fishing for crabs, or crabbing, is no easy feat, and one wrong move could mean taking a loss for the season, or even death. The Northwestern sets sail in the dark, rough seas. The Bering Sea is a chilly body of water between Asia and North America. Now 250 miles north of West Harbor, the Northwestern, owned by the Hansen family, and probably the most popular boat in the Discovery Channel, Deadliest Catch, awaits its catch. The crab pots had been set during a storm the previous night, as the crew fought waves over 20 feet tall. This is Captain Sig Hansen's first catch of the season. And honestly, it was not an easy battle. In the storm, they'd had to throw about 100 pots wildly into the sea, hoping that it would be favorable. As the boat goes through waves, a crab pot rolls down the bow and over the port bow. We see Captain Hansen talk about how it doesn't matter to him where the crab pots end up. The waves and winds are high, so those crab pots are better off the deck than anywhere else. The Northwestern has never had a crew member die at sea, despite how dangerous that territory is, and the captain intends to keep it that way. Being the captain of the Northwestern since 1990, and having been a sailor and fisherman for even longer, he has a lifetime of experience that makes him confident in his decisions. As he steers the ship, we see him watch over his crew and the sea with vigilant eyes. Next, we see the brightly colored marker buoy raised aboard as the rope reels it in. The buoys are used to keep the crab pots afloat and also mark where the pots are. Shortly after, the first pot emerges, and the crew, in their protective gear, is visibly and audibly elated when they see that it's filled halfway with crabs. The captain himself says that he doesn't expect the first pot to be anything spectacular. Yet, they turn them over, sort through the hundreds of crabs with stitch gloves, and in the end, find out that they've caught a whopping 650 of them. Considering that they hadn't chosen this location strategically, Captain Hansen says that this is a lucky catch. It's good that they stumbled upon this spot on their first try. With this first haul, they can get a feel for what's happening in this part of the Bering Sea and keep making good decisions. We see them haul pot after pot onto the deck, salt water spraying on them. They pull all the crab pots out now that the weather allows them to. Scheduling when to pull does little to help, Captain Hansen says, because when you're out in the sea, the weather has the final say. One moment, the sea looks calm, and it looks like you can rest, but in the next, you find yourself in the middle of an all-out storm. The crew of the Northwestern spends almost the entire day retrieving their pots and sorting out their crabs on this bountiful catch. While the Northwestern is having a field day, 85 miles northeast of West Harbor, the members of the Bandit watch a bright orange sunrise throw light across the calm waves of the sea. They deserve it, because they had spent the last night battling a vengeful storm, which tore up their flag and attacked their boats. The Bandit was designed by the Hillstrand's father and built by the manufacturing company, Giddings Boatwork. Because of this, it's able to weather even if there is a very strong storm. The crewmates talk about the storm and how many times they got close to getting thrown overboard by a giant wave or wildly rocking boat. Andy Hillstrand, captain of the Bandit, had to use every ounce of his strength and alertness to keep his crew members alive. They got tossed around almost like rag dolls, and it's easy to see that you're completely at her mercy when you're in the ocean. The Bandits limped out last night's storm with damaged deck lights, torn off boards, and an abused flag. The calm weather is very welcome and works well to make the crew happier. Hundreds of birds skim the water in beautiful arcs, cawing as the boat sails through 10-foot waves, magnitudes better than the 35-footers they had to wrestle last night. Because of this relative calmness, they decide to make hay while the sun shines and haul their crab pots onto the deck, only to yield a mediocre amount of king crabs. Definitely not worth the disaster of the night. Captain Andy's brother, Jonathan, co-captain, had been the one to advise him to try out this fishing spot. But it seems like his advice had not been a good one, and he regrets his decision now. Jonathan had been here last year and seen a lot of successful crabbing, but now, on average, they are only able to keep about 175 crabs per pot. A far cry from what would have been called a profitable day. As Andy complains about following his brother's advice, they catch fewer and fewer crabs. Andy even blows a raspberry at his brother. Soon he looks at the records and sees that the number of people is going down. Soon enough, they will start to get catches so small that it would not be worth it at all to stay in the area. As of March last year, this particular spot had been a hot spot because the crabs migrate down that way. But that is still 2 months away. Jonathan, it seems, has made a miscalculation. Jonathan suggests that they leave a pot a mile away, just in case, and Andy jokingly responds, "Don't you tell me what to do." Sometimes, crabbing is more about luck than a person's ability to judge correctly, as we see with Jonathan, who has years of experience under his belt. Another crab pot rolls in, and they see that they're going nowhere with this. Even Jonathan regrets making the trip here. They pull in and sort out one more crab pot before Andy gives the order to set out for another fishing spot. Between Andy and Jonathan, the other crew members aren't even sure who the boss is. The brothers seem to freely interchange who runs and steers the boat. Andy jokes about Jonathan just being a mascot. But Jonathan has just as much experience as Andy in the rough Bering Sea, and while he made an unlucky call this time, he is usually adept at making decisions. The brothers have even written a book on their experiences at sea. The crabs aren't here, so they move away from Captain Jonathan's spot. Next, we see the Time Bandit, 345 miles northwest of Dutch Harbor. The sun has set. They are close to a spot that crabbers call Mr. Magoo, because it's easy to imagine the depth contours on the map as the fictional, cartoon old man. Jonathan puts a pen on the map to indicate Mr. Magoo's hat. This spot has been a good one for the Time Bandits in the past, so they are optimistic. The Time Bandits gear up, their bright orange suits making them easily visible in the black of the sky and sea, and keeping in whatever shred of body warmth they have. This night again, the weather is more intense, although not as disastrous as the previous 2 nights. Still, the waves bathe the boat, spraying them all with salt water, and the cold is hellish. Captain Andy still has to be careful and alert. Captain Andy proceeds to splash all 50 pots into the ocean at Mr. Magoo. Many seabirds are still flying around the boat, even though it is very dark. The whites of their feathers stand out against the blackness of the night. As is necessary for crabbing, they leave the pots for 12 hours overnight. While waiting, the Hillstrand brothers are restless and unable to sleep. They anxiously and excitedly await the results of this spot. If it goes well, Andy gets to gloat, and Jonathan will have to concede to his brother's bragging. Jonathan is not eager for that to happen, but he has mixed feelings because a good haul will profit them both. Good thing he knows what matters. There is tension as the first pots slowly rise from the oceans, then a sound of jubilation as they see that it is absolutely loaded with crabs, almost halfway filled, or half empty, as Jonathan says out of good-natured jealousy. They pour out a multitude of crustaceans and count 695 on just their first pot. The crew is ecstatic, and you can practically see dollar bills reflected in their eyes. When sorting, they don't even know where to start. They pull in another crab pot, which shows a similar result. Enough crabs to feed an army. More pots follow, and every single one of them is half full, with crabs clinging to the sides and top of the wire. The crew of the Time Bandits celebrate as their moods are lifted, working to select the crabs out of the pots with enthusiasm. Mr. Magoo has blessed them after their last few rough days at sea. They have caught even more crabs than the crew of the Northwestern. Next trip, they know exactly where to go to get their crabs, and Captain Andy has successfully secured his bragging rights. Even Jonathan has to agree. 100 miles to the southwest of the Time Bandit, the crew of the Wizard aren't having fun. Their bad turn-up has just been addressed quite harshly by Captain Keith Colburn, and after that, they return to fishing. The waters are as calm as they can be on a night like this. The other crew members are sad, and the mood on board seems gloomy. Sad, they know that giving up is useless. Do not stop. They pull up a pot filled with as much trash as crabs. Aside from that, there is tension on the boat. Captain Keith appears to have insulted a few crew members, and the unrest in the salty air. The captain explains himself to the crew members, telling them that they should tolerate his speeches and outbursts. His crew are quick to understand. They know that their captain can be emotional and passionate. Besides, Keith has decades of experience and gets the job done efficiently. He's been in the business since as early as the 1980s, becoming a deckhand for the Wizard in 1988. Relying on very few instruments and mostly his instinct and exposure, he has consistently been able to produce excellent turn-ins. But this time, the results weren't so good. After going on an angry rant and then talking to the crew, he tells the ship's engineer, Lenny, he's sorry, and the two of them get along. Lenny is relaxed and knows what his boss is telling him. But Jason Moylanen, a greenhorn, isn't happy. As Moy enters the bridge, Captain Keith looks at him with suspicion in his eyes. The lights of the devices and instruments in the wheelhouse blink and beep as Moy starts to give the captain a piece of his mind, explaining that he baited the first 230 pots. But the captain doesn't let him have it, cutting him off as he speaks. He tells Moy to get out of the wheelhouse, using a lot of colorful language to emphasize his anger. He dismisses Moy abruptly. Overhead, we see a sign which ironically reads, "Adjust your attitude. You are flying into Unalaska, Dutch Harbor." Another outburst from Captain Keith. As a greenhorn at crab fishing, Moy doesn't appear to understand that you do not question the captain, especially one such as Keith. Captain Keith himself feels puzzled that after his talk, Moy doesn't seem to have caught on to the dynamics of this boat. The episode ends with the conflict unresolved. In another episode, we find the Time Bandit and her crew battling the seas on a cloudy day. The waves rise as high as 25 feet, but motivation is high as they try to secure 5,000 pounds of Golden King crab. If they can make that catch, it's going to be a lucrative season, easily more than other catches they've made in their careers. Several marker buoys bob in the sea, showing that the Time Bandits have invested a lot in the sea. They hoist a pot onto the deck, revealing the enormous creatures inside. With a leg span easily reaching the height of a man, they are called kings for a very good reason. The crabbers only have to catch a few of these to make a lot of money. Seeing their pots crawling with the crabs, the crewmates hoot and celebrate. Captain Jonathan tries to navigate the ocean to determine what part would be the most likely to hold his precious kings. He needs to find the right depth to fish in, calculating the influence of the tides so that he doesn't lose gear. After deliberating, he splashes the pots onto a thin ridgeline in the shape of a horseshoe. He hopes his gamble will pay off, as this season and $80,000 worth of equipment are on the line. "Hope doesn't float on a rock," he says, emphasizing that he needs to put his hope on the most sensible of things. The sea gets rougher and rougher on the edge of the storm, each minute spent there getting more and more risky. But the Time Bandit pushes on, their eyes on the prize. The waves make the boat sway dangerously, so the crew has to hold on to things that are still to stay balanced. Finally, they take out the crab pot and see that it has several king crabs in it. Although the findings look good at first, a very large wave hits them shortly after. It sprays salty water all over the bow and even the glass of the wheelhouse. Soon after, an even bigger wave hits them hard and threatens to throw some crew members overboard. They are lucky that the captain warns them in time because they can duck for cover. After that scare, the crewmates begin to contemplate landing, but the captain reminds them that they don't have harbor gear. So, onward they go. He's responsible for their safety, So Captain Jonathan tells them to hide away from the waves while he runs through. Another one slams into them with vengeance. When it was safer, he gave them the go. They retrieve a pot from the sea, and they find 20 king crabs right there. So they form a system. They take shelter as Jonathan crashes through the waves, then come out and fetch the crab pot. After that, they quickly head back to shelter at Jonathan's warning. With this, they try their best to get thousands of dollars worth of king crabs. It's a high-risk, high-reward gamble that could change their very lives. Subscribe to the channel if you have enjoyed the video so far.